Welcome to the Gab Talks by the Independent Press Award. I'm your hostess, Gabby Olzak. To participate in the 2026 Book Award competitions, please visit independentpressaward.com and nycbigbookaward.com. On this episode of the Gab Talks, we're thrilled to be chatting with author Luce, winner of the 2025 New York City Big Book Award in General Fiction, for his book, Walking on Nathan's Grave. Ron White writes fiction, nonfiction, plays, short stories, and poetry. During his career as an educator and trainer, he wrote professional articles, book chapters, promotional materials, scripts, and more. As an actor, he's performed in and directed plays and appeared in Ohio University's student film productions. A graduate of SUNY Brockport, he earns an MA and a PhD degree at Ohio University in creative writing, American literature, and rhetoric. His most recent publications are the novels Walking on Nathan's Grave, Once Upon a Waning Star, and his nonfiction work, The Millfield Mine Disaster. Congratulations, Ron, and welcome to the Gap Talks. It's wonderful to see you again.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to see you.
So the last time we met, you were waltzing on stage to collect your award, an exciting moment.
Yes, it was.
It was. So I'd love our viewers, listeners, readers to get to know you a little bit more. I'm just so amazed at the breadth of your writing. You have novels, nonfiction, fiction, short stories, essays, poetry. Your work is really genre defying, if you will. You were a college professor, an artist, an actor. I mean, wow. Ron, when did you first realize that writing would become such a central part of your life?
Well, I've always written as far back as I can remember, but when I was working as a college professor, I had to write all the time for all kinds of things. So I thought of myself as a writer almost, from the time I started teaching. And before, but I wasn't reaching out to publish so much. But it's in terms of the novels and those sorts of things, that's all been within the last 10 years that I've really made that commitment to trying to be a writer who writes fiction.
And so successful, award winning, almost really right off the bat. It's pretty amazing. You know, all your work is so diverse and really interesting. But I was particularly drawn to your book, Pie in the Sky and Other Illusions We Live With. Can you hold it up for our viewers to see that? Yeah, it's a really cool cover as well.
Well, thank you.
It's a compilation, just so our readers know, of short stories, a novella, poems, and a play. It's a really unique format. And it focuses, I guess you would say, on human daily struggle. And you've said that it's likely to join those works already being censored. That's a powerful statement. Why do you feel that way, Ron? And what inspired you to write it?
Well, I was inspired because I really wanted to share some of my most deeply felt convictions about what's going on in the world and what it might take to see a better world than we're currently experiencing. So I really wanted to just share in multiple forms. I knew it was risky to do that. Those kinds of things don't always sell extremely well, but I feel like there's a coherence to it that really makes it work as a whole. And that was my goal, was to try to link these things together in a way that felt like, here's an honest expression of who I am, what I believe in, what I think about. And
it was honest. In fact, the final entry of the book is entitled "Notes from a Life Now Fleeting." It's deeply personal, and you say it was painful to write but necessary. Ron, share with folks out there your upbringing and your childhood, which was essential to this story. And I get the feeling from all of your work that it's really central to you as a writer.
Absolutely. I grew up very poor. People who now know me now have no context for believing that that's the way I grew up. But I grew up extremely poor, um, in a family with all kinds of dysfunction. My father had a serious alcohol problem, which led to periods of some abuse of various kinds, both to children and to my mother. And my mother had issues of her own. She's what I would now call a narcissist. Uh, she was a nice enough person in many ways, but she was one of those people who always had to have things be about her. I think I spent a lot of my youth wishing I could somehow make my parents proud of me and love me, and the kinds of things that I didn't feel was going on. So um, I had to finally come to terms with the reality that I can't make that happen. And that was really painful, really painful. Um, I had some experiences with various things that were very difficult for me. I struggled with sexuality. I wanted to be the straight kid that everybody in my family and the surrounding community thought I should be, and I wanted to be because that's what I was taught I was supposed to be. Um, and that caused me a lot of grief for a long period of time, which led to I've been married twice to women. I've had 4 children, and those are good experiences and wonderful memories. But I always felt like there's this big hole in my heart.
Because you
And
weren't necessarily true to who you
exact,
really were.
exact,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
when you live your life feeling kind of like you know I'm performing all the time. I'm trying to lead people to see me the way I think they should see me instead of the way I really am. And I think when I really got into writing, I was aware that it takes honesty. You can't fake who you are very long and not be effective. So
Well, notes from a life now fleeting was brutally honest, actually, and it had to be somewhat cathartic for you to write that. Wonderful.
anytime you can talk about something, it helps.
Sure. So the title suggests a challenge to common assumptions. Pie in the sky. We've all said that. We've all used that phrase. What are some of the illusions you think that people most often live with?
Well, I think that
For you, it was sexuality, perhaps.
well, there's that. But I think in the larger society, there are all kinds. We've been sold on, this American dream, the myth of America. And I
Yeah.
love this country, don't get me wrong. But the I think people have been deceived in hanging on to some of the myths that we want to hang on to. It's because we want to hang on to them, not because there's the reality in them. For
So,
example,
what are some of those myths that you debunk in the book?
well, in the book, there is uh, a novella that deals with a black family working in the coal mines. The man is working in the coal mines, and he is an intelligent, capable person. And because of his skin color, he gets treated very differently by many people. And I like the idea of putting that kind of strong character in front of readers so that they recognize that our stereotypes cause us to react to people unfairly. Sometimes
Yeah.
before they've said a word, done anything, just oh, he has brown skin. That equates with and that goes on in our society, and people who are um, gay or flamboyant, let's say, uh,
Mhm.
women who don't dress the ways that many people think women should dress.
Right.
Um,
Or even
uh,
disabled folk.
I'm sorry.
even disabled folks also.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And marriage, I think we are sold on the myth that marriage is this thing that is so wonderful and we're going to just be happy for the rest of our lives. And
Yeah.
once you've met the person of your dreams, it's life gets suddenly wonderful. Well, in fact, relationships are difficult. They require a
Yeah.
lot of work. And sometimes you say, if we're all honest, sometimes say, why on earth am I doing this to myself? So, it's, I just like to kind of punctuate. Let's separate reality from the myths that we buy into and try to cling to as the way we should be.
So
So
that sounds like different conversations that you hope readers have after finishing it is like,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Now I wanna talk about another book that you have,
Sure.
Once Upon a Waning Star.
Oh,
Hold that up for us, Ron. It's a literary chronicle of America at the edge of time. This is really cool because it's also a genre defying work,
it is.
blends the gripping narrative, I would say, of a political thriller, but it's an innovative structure of a play, really unique. Give us your pitch for the book so folks out there would understand how it's designed and how it's structured.
Well, I think in essence, what makes it what I think is a good book is that there are layers upon layers of meaning that you can delve into depending on how you choose to read it. The structure is such that you're listening to a narrator talk about a play that is being produced. So we start out, we're going to look at the concept of going to a play. Then the next thing we know, we're meeting the actors backstage and getting to know them a little bit as human beings who happen to be actors. And so that gives a layer of what it means to live as in one way. We all have many characters, realistically, but the reader comes on stage with the actors as they're performing and is watching and interacting sort of with the action of the play. You're all involved in that, and then you step out for intermission and you experience the chatter and the stuff that's going on in the audience and out in the lobby, and then you step back into the play, and then you step out of the play. The book is kind of uh, encased in two different experiences based on the same idea. You have an actor who happens to be one of the three in the main play, and he has an alcohol problem. He's found his way into a theater that is old and run down, but he doesn't seem to know that. And so he is carrying on. He thinks he's doing a performance in front of an audience. So it's kind of surrealistic in that he's performing. He thinks he's getting responses from the audience, and then the next thing we know, he passes out. And then at the end of the play, we find him in a different situation where he's still in the same building, but he has decided that he's had enough of all of the ills of the world that have kind of imposed upon him and that he's taken on himself. And he thinks he wants to commit suicide.
Wow. Ron, I love your work because it's so the structure of your work is unique, but it also focuses on not only human struggle and many issues that we could all connect with, but the subjects are provocative and also very timely. So, Once Upon a Waning Star focuses on the after effects of the January 6th
Right.
insurrection.
Exactly.
And the damage that trickles into everyday life as a result of the event, which is a different take than we see in the headlines. A lot of that has been dismissed. Why did you choose to focus on the after?
Well, it's actually it all takes place on the one day after the um, attempted coup, and I chose that because, in many ways, it was the beginning of a whole new way of seeing what's going on in our country. It was the beginning of the where the myths start falling apart, that one person can take over and control things and dictate. And though it was only the first day, the administration then in office had been there for 4 years prior to that, and was determined they were going to continue. And even if they had to break the law or violate the Constitution to do it. As an American, was so horrified by that experience. My sense of what holds me to the notion that I am an American and we have freedoms and we have rights and all those kinds of things, and the notion that somebody could take that away in an instant was terrifying. And I wanted to speak out. I wanted people to hear, please don't just sit on your butt and watch the TV. We have to do something. And
And that was the point of your book,
exactly.
really.
In fact, I said that several times. Do
Yeah.
something, anything, but do something.
What's his waning star?
Well, the illusion, of course, is to America, the United States. And I saw that as the beginning of, I mean, things had been, I hadn't been happy with the way things have gone for a while, but, that's part of what we all live with. And I've seen it get better and then get worse again and better and worse. But for me, that was the pivotal moment at which we are now living very dangerously. And I didn't see at the time any coming back from that short of major rebellion. So, I mean, essentially, it just came down to I wanted to make a protest, but in a way that is not just complaining or whining about, what other people should do, but just recognizing the thoughts and feelings that we have about who we are as a collective of people and what it would take to turn it around. And one of the things that I think works out really well in the book, from my standpoint, is that the message over and over again comes back to finding a way to let go of hatred, finding a way to be kind, even when other people aren't kind, to find ways to interact with one another where we can try to understand one another and maybe do a little better from that point forward. So I don't want to give away the ending, but I think that those are the kinds of things that drove it. But I also wanted to write a good piece of literature that I hadn't read before, and
and in it's such a unique style, such a unique format.
well, thank you. I enjoyed doing it. I really did.
You can tell you're just an amazing writer. We're going to switch gears a little bit because I want to talk about Nathan's Grave, which is hold that up for us, which is the winner of the New York City Big Book Award for General Fiction. First of all, Ron, what did that recognition mean to you?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I mean, you work as a writer, you work in isolation all the time, and to have other people say what you do matters is a phenomenal thing. And then to be chosen as one out of many to receive an award is just it just is reinforcing that I'm doing something worth doing. And
Yes.
I treasure that experience. I really do.
Well, it is so meaningful. Nathan's Grave is another book that focuses on the human struggle, but in a different way than your other work. It follows a protagonist through a journey of personal struggle,
Yes.
self-discovery, healing. I think those are all emotions that we can connect with on some level for sure, which is what makes it such an interesting read. It's very emotionally charged. How much did you derive from personal experience in this book?
Oh, a great deal.
Yeah.
Particularly in the main character, Rob Wilson. I mean, I didn't have exactly those experiences, of course, but they really feed on experiences that I've had of disappointment, feeling like, no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you work at life, it just doesn't always work out particularly well. And
Give us your book pitch on this one.
I'm sorry.
Give us a little book pitch on this one so folks know what the story's about.
Well, yes, uh, Nathan's grave. Walking on Nathan's grave is about a man who had been in a relationship with another man back in Chicago. He, the other man, rejects him for whatever reason. We suspect what the reasons were, but so he's rejected, and he just falls apart. He goes into very self-destructive behaviors, and has given up. He's a writer, and he's given up writing. He just can't make himself create, and he finally gets kind of a jolt of you need to do something about your life. Can't just wait around for somebody to fix it. You got to do something. And he finally does. He picks up and moves to Ohio and takes up residence there. And almost first thing, he is invited by another man, a police officer, to help write the story of an old event that happened I think it happened in 1873 or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but um, he wants to get at what really happened back then. How do you go back and do justice for somebody who was killed unjustly?
So it was an unsolved murder
It was
case.
an unsolved murder case. Well, it was solved in the minds of many people, but without a lot of hard evidence. It was kind of circumstantial. And the young man in that particular instance ultimately was hanged. And he isn't interested in it personally so much, Rob, but this Jake that he has met, the police officer, is very interested in the story and wants it to happen. There's a bit of attraction there that he decides to just do it. And he and this other guy have to work at the process of how do you dig up information on a single case in a little podunk town in Ohio and get at the facts. What are the facts? And so it's kind of like digging through history. I got to find out what happened, sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
what fascinated you about connecting the presence with a crime from the past? What fascinated you about that structure?
well, it's based on an actual story that happened. That I'm very interested in history, local history. I've written a couple of books on nonfiction books on local history, and I had heard about this story, and I did research on it. I've did all the things that anybody would ever want had to have done about it, only to realize that the actual evidence isn't there. It isn't there. But the underlying idea was that the police officer wanted this guy to get justice. If he didn't do it, he shouldn't have his name carried through eternity as a murderer. If he did do it, well, then he deserved a fair trial and whatever punishment was appropriate for the crime that he committed. He didn't like the idea that people all believed this guy was, a murderer just because they believed it. It wasn't enough for him, which I think is great. We all make a lot of assumptions about things in life instead of really knowing what we're talking about. So at any rate, as they come to know each other and get involved, they run into all sorts of instances in the present where the, they have to deal with crime that's occurring, that's affecting them personally and affecting the city and those kinds of things, and become very involved in that. And so we've got current crime going on one hand, and we got this old crime going on another, and somehow you have to deal with, well, why is this important? Well, we're doing this. I mean, the essence of it is we're doing the same things today that we did back in the 1770s, and so on back in time. It seems to be part of the human condition. And I really wanted people to experience that, we need to know what we're talking about before we level accusations on people, names that are very oppressive, and those kinds of things. And it's really important to get down to what are the facts and what are my assumptions when I'm going into some situation that I don't know about.
That seems to be a common thread or running thread throughout your work,
Yeah,
Ron. Is that right?
absolutely.
Yeah. And I'd like to know, how do you see the relationship between truth and fiction? That's also a thread that runs through all of your work.
Yes. Well, I think, I mean, obviously the notion of fiction is that it's made up, but the reality is it's usually made up based on something that is very real. Yeah, if nothing more than emotional responses to the world, um, kind of the ways we interact with various people, those kinds of things. So um, I think fiction can be used to get to the truth. And I that's the way I see it is, no, the words aren't exactly what happened because I can't know what happened. I'm writing about characters that are not me, and I can't know that if those characters actually existed, that these would be the facts that they face. So you create a work of fiction with the notion that you're trying to get at some basic truths about who we are as people, and what we believe and what would make us better. How can we interact with other human beings more effectively, less abusively? And so I think in many ways, good stories really lead to truth. Whereas if I wrote the same thing as an essay saying, here are the facts about this and here are the facts about that, so it must, you must see that that's the case. It's kind of more like you experience it, maybe even if you can't explain it. And so I think good fiction is always telling the truth, but it may
Always. I
not
think that's
be.
the best
It,
fiction.
I'm sorry.
I think that's the best
Yeah.
fiction when there's a little bit of truth in it.
Yes, always.
What is there a book that you've always wanted to write but you haven't yet? I feel like you have a lot in you.
Well, I'm working on a book right now that is I don't know how it's going to turn out yet, but it's very much in tune with what Ernest Hemingway did in his early book In Our Time. I love that book because he takes little vignettes which seem kind of disconnected, and then he follows them up with these stories which seem kind of disconnected, and yet you get to the end of it and there's a hole there that you just couldn't have anticipated, I don't think. Yeah, of course, he's a very good writer, but I think I wanted to attempt to do something, but more up to date. I don't write like Hemingway. I don't want to write like Hemingway. I don't intend to emulate him. I emulate his commitment to trying to write good quality work. But at any rate, so those very things that you were talking about in Pie in the Sky where I talk about my personal life. What I'm doing is I'm taking those things now and I'm reintroducing them, and then I'm incorporating this who I actually became as a writer, this young man who is trying to figure out what the hell's going on in this world, and in his life and who he is. So you get kind of, here's the reality of what he's saying and thinking, and then all of a sudden there's a short story that that seems somehow important. And then there's another vignette, and then another short story which is somehow linked to the first short story. And so all the stories are interlinked rather than uh, seemingly different, as Hemingway did. His stories in the book are largely when they're not the same characters, they're not picking up where the previous story left off or anything like that. So that's the goal. I've always wanted to do that, and it's either going to be a great book or it'll be a total bomb, and I'll rearrange it and
I'm
make it into something else.
I'm sure it'll be a great book. So, what would you like your literary legacy to be? How would you like people to remember or Luce?
Well, I would like to. I mean, there's a little bit of ego, of course, attached to. I would like people to like my work. I would like
Of course.
I would like people to think that I said things that were valuable and that
Yeah.
enhanced the world, that left something behind that others can pick up on and engage the world maybe with different eyes as a result of having read good literature, whether it's mine or other people's. But
Yeah.
since we're talking about
That's
mine,
it.
um,
That's a wonderful message and a wonderful legacy.
I don't expect to gain huge fame and fortune. I'm a little old for that, probably, but I do want my work to be read, and I want people to say, "That's good. I want to do something with that information. I want to do something because of how I feel about how he created this little world within these pages."
Um, as a professor and educator, and as a writer, what advice would you offer aspiring writers?
I think first and foremost is to know yourself and
Yeah.
seek to know and understand yourself throughout your lifetime. Be willing to reflect on who you are, what you say, what you do, and how you can improve. I think a willingness to be honest is critical.
And that will make you a better writer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Honest about
I would agree.
yourself and honest about the world you live in.
I would agree with that. Lastly, Ron, as we wrap up this wonderful chat we've had, after writing across so many genres and subjects, what have you learned about human nature that may have surprised you the most?
No, I'm sorry to say that I'm overall kind of disappointed that
Yeah,
that people aren't better than they are in many situations. Um, I think many people are too driven by uh, power and money, and not driven enough by not giving enough of themselves to helping one another, being open to seeing that other people are suffering and doing something about it, not just saying, "Oh well, that's too bad," which I think is the attitude that is so common today. And
yeah,
I hate that, and I
do something.
do something, uh,
Yeah,
and
take action.
and search deep within yourself. As a writer, I think one of the best books I ever read for that was Rilke's Letter to a Young Man, Rainer Maria
Mm.
Rilke. And in Letters to a Young Man, that's pretty much what he says is, how do you look at yourself honestly? And there's a passage in there I always keep in my mind, And it's this idea of learn to love the questions themselves like locked rooms for which you will one day hold the key. And
Wow, that's amazing.
and we're not going to have the answers to everything. It's
Yeah.
impossible. But if we keep seeking it, then it makes life worth living.
Wow. That was a great ending, Ron, to a fantastic interview. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Your work is really incredible. I love, love, love your writing. I can't emphasize that enough. Where can readers and listeners purchase your work?
Well, obviously, Amazon, which I mean, everybody has all their stuff on Amazon. So that would be the easiest way. You can go to your local bookstores. They can order it in for you. It is listed on Ingram Spark. Um, so if you're a dealer, you can get it there.
And do you have a website, Ron? Perfect. There we have it. Well, folks, go out there and get these books. They're fantastic. You're going to love, love, love this work. It's so interesting. Ron, thanks for joining us today. It's really been a pleasure to see you again.
And a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ron. This is your hostess, Gabby Olzak of the Gab Talks. Join us next podcast. Until next time, keep on reading.